Alright, we just got some breaking news out of the swing state of Nevada that I am incredibly excited to share with you guys, because for some real talk, I've been pretty nervous about this election for the past 2 months. I've been looking at the data, I've been going to these Trump rallies, I've been thinking that due to the inflation we once experienced, due to Elon Musk's meddling, Trump could win, but now, over the past 48 hours, I have felt incredibly competent. Now, not complacent, I have already voted, I am mobilizing my friends and family, but I feel confident due to some key data that we've gotten from a few swing states, and I want to share this data with you so you can ease your nerves. I know you guys are nervous. I can feel the energy. So with less than a day to go, let's jump into this video. We have no time to waste. Make sure you drop a like and make sure you subscribe. People keep saying, I've been watching you for a while, but I didn't realize that I never even subscribed to you. So let's jump in with this first clip of Donald Trump's rally in Pennsylvania. I just want to illustrate that people are not showing up anymore. The movement is dying. Take a look.
And he has put a lot of effort and energy into trying to increase his margins here. I will say the turnout today so far for this event is quite thin. There is a lot of empty seats left in this arena, and Donald Trump is now supposed to speak in the next hour here. So I'm not saying that's a sign about what we can expect in Pennsylvania by any stretch or in this county, but Donald Trump has built his brand around his ability to turn out large crowds. And so far in the stops today in North Carolina and here in Reading, it is noticeably thin here.
He makes an amazing point. Donald Trump has built his brand on the turnout, and the crowd there is thin. The crowd in North Carolina was thin. We have seen this repeated over the past few weeks, and he also makes another great point. This isn't very indicative of the turnout we'll see. We'll still see tens and tens and tens of millions of people voting for Donald Trump. It'll still be pretty close, but I think that we can worry a little bit less. Now, I do want to say, before we jump into this data, I do want to prepare you guys. I want to prime you guys in the same way that Donald Trump is with his fan base. Now, what Donald Trump's doing is already laying the groundwork to call the election stolen, so tomorrow night he can take the stage. He can take the stage, declare victory prematurely, and then Elon Musk will back him up throughout all of that. And my uncle made a really good point. He was saying that in 2020, Twitter acted as a guardrail. Do you guys remember when Donald Trump immediately got banned for spreading election fraud lies? Election fraud lies were deranked in the algorithm and people were banned immediately. Now that Elon Musk has unilateral control, it'll be the opposite. He will be boosting that stuff. So going back to what I said, I want to prime you guys a little bit so you guys are ready. I know you guys are ready for Donald Trump to declare early victory with the help of all of his cronies, all of his surrogates, firing on all cylinders to leverage all of their resources. Elon Musk will use his wealth, will use his reach. Everybody like JD Vance will be posting on Twitter, posting on Instagram. They'll be firing on all cylinders, and we need to be ready. I mean, even Tucker Carlson in 2020 was running defense for Donald Trump when he didn't want to. Do you guys remember when these text messages released? Quote, "We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. I truly can't wait. I hate him passionately." That aged poorly, number one. But number two, these are Tucker Carlson's private comments while he was saying at the same time on air that the election was stolen from Donald Trump. So to back up, my broader point here is everybody in the media is going to be firing on every single cylinder. Even though Tucker Carlson showed a moment of genuineness in this text message, he is still back to saying this.
And the last thing I would say is, as someone who spent I don't know, something like 15 hours in depositions imposed on me by voting machine companies. And I was never named in any suit by a voting machine company, but they went out of their way to harass me, I think funded by Reid Hoffman, stole all my text messages, leaked them to the New York Times. I'm bitter about it still. But for the last year and a half, the whole conservative media has been cowed into ignoring what's really obvious, which is we should not have electronic voting machines.
Ignoring what's really obvious. What's obvious is that you are a grifter and you are leveraging your, I don't even want to say intelligence, but he's leveraging his ability to speak well on camera to trick millions and millions of Americans, because Tucker Carlson knows better. I can guarantee this guy knows better. JD Vance knows better. Mike Lindell, I think, actually believes this stuff. I think Mike Lindell and Tucker Carlson are different in the sense that Mike Lindell has been sucked up into these lies genuinely, but we know that Tucker Carlson will continue to lie for Donald Trump tomorrow night. This is going to happen tomorrow night. And this brings us on to some of the data that we've just gotten recently. So, to lay the groundwork, have you guys heard the name John Ralston? He's been making waves not only this election cycle, but I remember back in 2020, I was a huge polling nerd, and John Ralston was known as a genius, as someone who could call the states very clearly, not just the states, but the state of Nevada in particular. His Wikipedia entry reads, Nevada election predictions and analysis. Pay attention right here. Ralston analyzes Nevada elections, especially based on early voting results, and accurately predicted the presidential election in Nevada and the Senate race in 2016 on the basis of early voting data. In 2020, he accurately predicted the presidential election in Nevada again, and the 2 Las Vegas House area races in which he offered predictions. He got it right. In 2022, he then accurately predicted the Nevada Senate race. 2 of the 3 Las Vegas House races, the gubernatorial race, the lieutenant gubernatorial election, the Secretary of State race, the AG race, the treasurer race, and the controller race. Sorry, that was a mouthful for me. In 2024, spoiler alert, John Ralston just predicted that Kamala Harris would win the 2024 presidential election in Nevada based on the early voting data, which is his specialty. And I'm going to show you guys how this affects the electoral map in particular, but let's read John Ralston's words exactly. So now that you guys know who John Ralston is, he has all of these accurate predictions. We just got this article 30 minutes ago titled Editor John Ralston's 2024 Nevada Election Predictions. John Ralston says, I should have done the mic drop in 2020. Picking the winners in the 2 top races, both of which were antagonizingly close, should have been the swan song, the ride off into the sunset of my oracular career. But no, I couldn't just rest on the laurels of correctly choosing the governor, the gubernatorial race, all of these different seats. So here we go again. Now, let's skip a little bit because he breaks down some of the data. Elections, as always, are about a lot of things, but when distilled, they're about math. And the math this year is confounding. He says, of the early vote is different from any since this data was kept in such detail and I began analyzing it. Usually, the Democrats, fueled by the machine that Harry Reid built, erect a firewall in populous Clark County that is designed as a bulwark against losses in the 15 red counties, with Washoe County often deciding who wins. And just a side note, over the past few weeks, MAGA has been loving John Ralston. They love John Ralston because he has been saying, Trump is getting some good early voting data. The early voting data looks good for Trump, and this isn't because John Ralston is some Trump supporter. It's actually the opposite. He is so nonpartisan that he will gladly admit if the other side is getting good data. And now, MAGA hates John Ralston on Twitter. Someone just accused John Ralston of being paid off by Soros, and they found out the same person was praising John Ralston a few days back. We'll get to that. To continue with this, with former President Donald Trump and company discovering it might be smart to encourage Republicans to vote early and even by mail, the horror, the GOP vote has been front-loaded. The inverse is true, and the question is whether the Democrats can overcome a 43,000-plus GOP ballot lead as I write this. He said, I won't repeat a lot of my analysis. That concludes, Trump probably has a 30,000 raw vote lead right now. But my theory of the case is that there is still a lot of Clark County mail ballots to be counted that favor Democrats and the GOP, and the GOP's partial cannibalization of its election day vote will propel some Democrats to victory, but not all Democrats are going to win down ballot in Nevada. What he's saying right here is that the Republicans cannibalized their on election day vote by getting those voters to vote early. So you guys can see what they did. They pushed everyone to vote early, and that completely decreased the amount of people that will vote on election day for Republicans. So here we go. For the presidency, drum roll. He said, I've been calling this the unicorn election because of the unusual voting patterns. It's really hard to know what will happen with mail ballots and election day turnout with so many Republicans voting early. But here's what I do know. Both sides, at least people who understand the data on both sides, believe this will be close. That's because if past is prologue in the mail ballot era, the last 2 cycles, tens of thousands of mail-in ballots will come in between now and Friday, the deadline. It's a simple question. Can the Democrats catch up? It's a coin flip, and he says, I know people on both sides who have analyzed the data who can't decide. He said, I've gone back and forth in my own head for days, and my eyes glazing over the numbers and models and extrapolations. The keys to this election, no pun intended, shout out Alan Lichtman, he said the key to this election has always been which way the non-major party voters break because they have become the plurality in the state. They're going to make up 30% or so of the electorate, and if they swing enough towards Harris, she'll win Nevada. He says, I think they will. and I'll tell you why. He says, there are a lot of nonpartisans who are closet Democrats in Nevada who were purposely registered by Democrat-aligned groups as nonpartisans. The machine knows who they are and will get them to vote. It will be just enough to overcome the Republican lead, along with women motivated by abortion and crossover votes that issue also will cause. He says, I know some may think this reflects my well-known disdain for Trump. This guy hates Trump, just so you guys know. Hard over data is not the case here. That is not the case. He says, I've often predicted against my own preferences. History doesn't lie. I just have a feeling she will catch up here. But I also believe, and please remember this, it will not be clear who won on election night. So block out the nattering nabobs of election denialism. It's going to be very, very close. Here is his official prediction. Harris, 48.5%. Trump, 48.2%. That is so incredibly close. When it comes to the Senate, his prediction, Rosen, 50%, Brown, 45%. Now, what I want to do here is take this data from John Ralston and plug it into the election model. I know you guys hate 538, but you will love it in this case scenario. This model shows you the probability of a candidate winning after they win a certain state. For example, if I said that VP Harris wins Texas, if I put Texas blue, that means Kamala Harris wins 99 out of 100 times. That's obvious, right? If Texas goes blue, it's game over. So the question is, if Nevada goes blue on election night, what percent chance does VP Harris have of winning? Well, if Nevada goes blue, Kamala Harris wins the election 79 out of 100 times. 79 out of 100 times. This means Trump only has a 1 in 5 chance of winning, according to John Ralston, who again has predicted 2016 early, based on early voting data in Nevada. 2022 was his big year. He accurately predicted the Nevada Senate race, the gubernatorial race, the lieutenant gubernatorial election. This guy knew what was going on down ballot, so we can trust him. Is he infallible? No. Could he be wrong? Yes. Should you still vote? Please go vote. With that being said, he is the best indicator that we have right now. On top of that, I want to read this thread. It says, the Seltzer Iowa poll was a political shockwave, to say the least. What if I told you there was a poll in neighboring Kansas that shows the same dynamic as Iowa? It's the Kansas Speaks poll, which has Trump only +5 in a state he won +14 in 2020. I think Kamala Harris loses the state of Iowa, but what I think happens is that we see this shift among women in Iowa and all of these different states. Here's the kicker for the Kansas Speaks poll. Harris's surprising strength comes from older people with a large gender gap, the same exact dynamic as Seltzer's poll. We have seen this dynamic replicated in multiple states where women 65 years and older are splitting for VP Harris and by a massive, massive margin, and it's probably because of the way that Republicans speak. I mean, just listen to this dude.
In February 20th, 2023, I was attacked in my bed by a spiritual being and clawed and left bleeding and scarred. And do I understand what happened? No, of course I don't. I don't really understand anything, but...
Shout out to the guy who got sent to hell just to bully Tucker Carlson in his sleep. I want to end this video off by saying the reason why I think Kamala Harris is very likely to win the election is number one, because John Ralston has an amazing record in Nevada. Number two, women are voting across the country and turning out. In Georgia, for example, in 2020, the entire vote count was 4.9 million votes for the Georgia vote in 2020. 4.9 million. In 2024, Election day is yet to happen. We already have 4 million from the early vote. We already have 4 million in Georgia. On top of that, if Nevada goes blue, that means there's a polling error in favor of VP Harris across all of the different swing states because Trump currently has a solid lead in Nevada. So if Kamala wins Nevada, that means the polling error is replicated across all states. So I'm feeling good. Let me know how you guys are feeling. Drop a like on this video. Subscribe. Have a great rest of your day. Peace out.